So, good morning, you guys. I want to talk about AEW and the Owen Hart tournament, and I feel that it's quite honestly 50-50 for me. And I want to talk about, the people involved in the potential matches, and also, as well, like people who should be involved in it as well. Like, I would say the best word is 50-50. So, for the women's, you have Billy Starks, Jamie Hayter, Thunder Rosa, and Chris Statlander in Group A, which means that it's going to be Jamie Hayter versus Billy Starks, and the winner of that's going to face either Thunder Rosa or Chris Statlander. And automatically, I would say that I do not like the fact that Billy Starks is in this one because she's just featured on the main roster. They didn't do a lot of build for her, so I don't think that she's the right person. I would honestly say that, unfortunately Britt Baker's not with the company or Saraya, but there are other people on the roster that I feel would be a little bit more deserving, like maybe Willow Nightingale or somebody a little bit more like established, even like if you had like Nyla Rose in it, because, Nyla Rose is a big threatening person. I don't feel Billy Starks deserve it, nor does Jamie Hayter, because she was very popular at a point, Jamie Hayter, I'll give you that. But it's honestly like, you already had Billy Starks versus Jamie Hayter at the main event Collision. Now you're going to do like a rematch. So I don't think that they're good options. Like, quite honestly, I would have extended the contract and I would have said, hey, I would either give it to Nyla Rose or Saraya, or I would have given it to, like Red Velvet or somebody else in the Ring of Honor roster. Like somebody like more like established, or even like Mina Shirakawa since she's joining the company, like definitely, both those are very weak options. And then the other one is Thunder Rosa and Chris Statlander. Like, Thunder Rosa is a really great athlete. She's a really great babyface, but the problem is she's been losing a lot. So it doesn't make sense to kind of push her. And then also you have Chris Statlander, who, has been on a losing streak as well, but she's definitely very like formidable. Like just one more time, I'm gonna say that it should be Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, Marina Shafir, and possibly like Saraya or Britt Baker if they were still with the company, or Mina Shirakawa. I think those would be good options. And my prediction is that with all these people, you're gonna get Chris Statlander to win because Billy Starks, she's too green. She's not been featured on the roster. Chris Statlander has a bit of a legacy. Thunder Rosa has been losing a lot, and I think that she's in bad graces with Tony Khan, so he's going to make Chris Statlander win. And then you can't do Jamie Hayter versus, Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander talks to the microphone. She's big and formidable, so that's kind of like the best option you can get out of the Group A. In Group B, you have Julia Hart versus Mercedes Moné. And on the other side is Harley Cameron versus Athena. So I definitely think the bad one, I think this is a better class, but it's also very predictable because it's going to go down to Mercedes Moné versus Athena. And I've said my thing about Harley Cameron. I'm happy she's in this. She deserves to be in it. But she kind of jokes around a little too much. And then also, too, Julia Hart, she's part of the House of Black. So they've kind of not done anything recently. Like, she's kind of come back from like a hiatus, but she's also had some victories, but she's not like been on pay-per-view. So they've not kind of built her up as a monster. So that's kind of a little bit lackluster. And then it's also predictable. So with all the people participating, I would hope for this, that they do Mercedes Moné versus Athena at Ring of Honor, because that's the most appropriate time to do that. And I think it'd be like, hey, I'm going to put my Ring of Honor Women's title against you, because I'm afraid that they're going to put this on the main event of Dynamite or Collision. No, the show that it should be Mercedes versus Athena, it has to be Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, because that is what's going to sell that show. And I would also say that I think the best thing that you have to do is have Mercedes Moné win the tournament. And the reason why I want her to do that is because she's going to win the Owen Hart Championship, and then she's also going to win the Ring of Honor Championship. And a lot of people are going to be like, hey, you're going to do Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné, and people are going to be so, you have the good baby face and the heel dynamic. You kind of have like a Charlotte Flair, Austin Aries type of thing, because Austin Aries was a belt collector, was arrogant, people didn't think he really deserved it. And then you have like a Charlotte Flair, where a lot of people say the thing about her where she kind of is getting all the titles really because, of who her daddy is. Woo! That was a bad one, but I could do it a little bit better. Woo! 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 That's how Charlotte Flair gets her titles, because of her daddy, Nature Boy Ric Flair, and they're kind of almost doing this with Mercedes Moné, and I think that's the best thing, like the privileged girl versus Toni Storm, who had to work hard and grind really, so that would be the best direction for them. And I also appreciate the bravery of AEW, because automatically Mercedes Moné is the TBS champion, and Athena is the Ring of Honor women's heavyweight champion. And the thing about that is, number one, it makes your company look stronger, because you're saying, hey, you know what? There are people holding titles and they want to go after other titles. It makes sense because, in professional wrestling, there are double champions. The next thing that I would say is it elevates those titles, because, because remember with Jade Cargill, it wasn't good that she was the TBS champion for so long without actually considering the world heavyweight title. Or even look at Austin Aries in TNA Wrestling when he was the X Division champion. He wanted to go bigger and better and go after the world title. That makes sense. And then also Athena, she wanted bigger and better, so she's the ROH Women's Champion, and she's going after, the biggest title in the company at the biggest show. So that's a good choice. For example, like you look at, somebody like, I think Obafemi's the champion, but I was talking about Trick Williams. If Trick Williams was like, I'm going to give him an NXT title to, to participate in the Royal Rumble, or to have a match on WrestleMania or something like that, or be like, hey, I want like a contendership match against like Randy Orton at WrestleMania, and I'm going to give it my title. That makes a lot of sense, really, that somebody would want to drop their title or be a champion and go to a bigger and better spot, really. So I respect that, because that's realistic, instead of being like, hey, I'm going to be wrestling on Ring of Honor and it doesn't really matter. I want to be on, instead of being like, I want to be on the biggest show of the year. So I appreciate that. So what I will say is that, like for the women's one, I really think that, there's a lot of just, people that should be on it. And there are some like, ideas that, there's some good like matchups, and there's some like, good ideas for like the booking and all that. But I really, really think that Mercedes Moné is the one who's going to win it. And then she's also the right choice, because you're going to have a great heel and babyface dynamic between Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné. And I'm going to do another video about the men's Owen Hart tournament. I was actually going to do both in one video, but I think it's just better to just divide it into two separate videos. Less is more.